Okay, hi guys. Today I want to talk with you about slices, and not only about slices, and about Android and life in general. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. What slices is? Thank you. I like to think about it in the way like slice is the way to put your features closer to the user. And this is not only about content or views or kind of like that. It's all about your feature, the stuff which your application do, and the end user. For example, if I want to listen some music in the car, especially, and I want, for example, to make my phone play Metallica. So I need to do several actions. First of all, I need to start play music, then type Metallica in the search. It showed me the search result. Then I should find correct album or stuff like that and click on the play button. It would be much easier if, for example, I have the search field in the main screen of my phone and I just type play Metallica and then it will show me some kind of widget and I just click play and that's all. So slices is all about this. And we already have some mechanism to make this stuff real. For example, we have notifications, which show already some kind of content for us from the applications. We have widgets, no one uses it, but we have it still. They're still there, I just checked before presentation. And we have application actions. Also, they are still there, so please use it. And all these features are all about the bringing the feature of your application closer to the user and make it easier to use it. Because, for example, it's much easier to take a note if you have a widget with this edit field on your screen. You just click on it, type text, and that's all. You don't need to run application, click on a new node, put text there. The same way you can, for example, manage your music, call for somebody, start a ride with your Uber and stuff like that. So the slices is just yet another mechanism and feature to make it real. So what is the difference? Let's start from example, because nobody likes the documentation. So just bring some code there. In use under Studio, you can find this button. You can add something. In the other, you will find slice provider. So good enough for start. If you click on it, under Studio add some stuff to your project. First of all, it will modify manifest and it will add provider with the slice name, authorities, and it should be exported. And from this part of manifest, we can understand that slices use content providers, which is probably reasonable. If we, for example, need to share some data from our application, we don't need to invite Bicycle, we can just use content provider which are there. Also, it will add intent filter, which means that we can, using this category, find our slice from any third-party application. And it will also put some data to run it from the URL, which means that you can run your slice not only from some specific API, but also we are clicking on URL, which could be useful. Let's go to the code. Under Studio, add some class to your project, and it will be looks like this. It will add some methods, and this slice provider, it's actually the main thing which will provide slides. And generate UI, get data, and provide it to any third-party application who will run your slices. Let's go through the methods. So on map intent to URI, it's a method to create URI from some intent. On bind slice, so this is the main method which will be used from your code and from your project to create the slice, create the view. So it's kind of like on bind view from recycle view and stuff like that. On slice pinned and on slice unpinned, they are not used for now. But from this method, we can understand that probably at some point of time, we will be able to pin our slices to some kind of view or other applications, or probably our main screen of the phone. Who knows? Let's jump into onBind slice method. So what we got here? First of all, we need to validate our path from our URI, because we can have several URIs for one slice, and we can show different UI. After we're done the validation here, we should return some slice, which is responsible for this part of URI. And here the same code snippet, but closer. What we have here? We have DSL, which is good, because DSL on Kotlin, it's good right now. And we have a list and a row. What it means for us? It means that we will use probably the same language as we use for general UI. We have list views, we have rows inside it, we have grid views, and all that old school stuff. And we have two fields here, primary action and the title. Primary action is the action which will happen when you will click on the slice. And the title is actually the text which will be shown. So after all these kind of exercises, what we will get? We will get this kind of UI. You can't see it actually, but believe me, it's beautiful. Just imagine. It's actually contained of one row with hello world inside it, and that's all. And you can see that I'm using slice viewer. It's a specific application to check your slices. Because right now we have API, we have library to build slice, to use them, but we don't have any application from Google who will show the slices actually. They working on it. So first place where you will be able to find your slices at some point of time will be search. So when you will try to put something in the search field inside your phone, and if application will find out that your slice with URI will match that kind of text, it will show this kind of slice behind general search results. Also, using this API, actually any application could show the slice, and this is how they done this slice viewer. So slice viewer is kind of emulator for the slices, running on another emulator, because more emulator is better, probably, apparently. Okay, so hello world is just beautiful example, but in our application we usually have some data, and this data changes sometimes. So for example, we can have a slice which will show traffic jams, and the traffic jams are not always the same if you are not living in the Kyiv, for example. So we need to change something. So we need the way to change our data. And we have the way to do it. As I mentioned previously, slices use content providers. So we have the same way to modify the data as usually with content providers. So here how it works. We have almost the same slice, but with much more activities in it. For example, we have another action which will push some data to the broadcast receiver. Broadcast receiver will change data and notify back our slices. And we need to implement this action. The action here is just a kind of pending intent, but with additional metadata like title and some icon if needed. So here we are creating usually intent. Here it is. We just pushing our broadcast receiver like, hey, do something with our data. And then putting this in the intent to our slice action. Yeah. After it, we need to get our data, which was modified, somewhere from our application. In this case, it's beautiful production code, which use static variable inside the broadcast receiver. Please do not do it. But for demo, it works. So what we have here, we have layout, which have action. We will click on it, and it will push broadcast receiver. And then we are trying to get our data from our broadcast receiver in this way. So what happens in broadcast receiver? Here our great production grade repository of data with one field receiver count. What we are doing here, we just increment this field and provide it back to the slice. So slice can modify UI. next what we have here is onReceive method. So in this method, we just show in toast, just to be able to be sure that our broadcast receiver, our beautiful broadcast receiver, triggered and increase our counter. And then we are doing next stuff. We are getting content resolver and push changes to it. We just call notify changes, put slice URI, it's URI of our slice, and that's all. After it, our slice will be regenerated, and the system call onBind slice again, and from that method we get new data and show it on the screen on our slice. Again, beautiful UI. So yeah, amazing. We have two rows there. One show the count, and the other show like click me, the text. It's text which came from our slice layout. As you mentioned previously, we have templates and template language in our slice. So it's slight bit different than we usually use in Android. It doesn't contain any XML, so something strange happens. And we, from Kotlin, can create layouts with pretty complex layout as well. And for this, we have specific DSL. So mostly it contains of several parts. One part, the biggest part, is list builder, is the God object from which we are starting our layout. And then we have slice action. It's any kind of buttons or actions or anything which we need to do with the slice to trigger our application and to do something. And also everything is a row, almost. So it's mostly the same pattern which you use with general UI, with linear layout, grid layout. So you put linear layout inside linear layout, inside the grid layout, and then you do this kind of modification. Like in web development before div, table and table and table. Okay, what is slice action? Because I several times mentioned it. It's one of the main part of the communication with the slice. So we can show the data, it's cool. We can create complex UI tables with images and all the stuff, but we need to be able to get some response from the user. When we show this data, for example, when we show the new trip inside the Uber app, we need to have the button like call the driver, for example. And this happens with slice action. Slice action can contain three parts. It can contain icon or toggle or some custom toggle or nothing of that and only text. Let's imagine that we want to create some slice to control our Wi-Fi. For example, we have some Chinese phone and we don't have any other ability to turn on or turn off our Wi-Fi, and we need to create a specific slice for it. And it contains of several things. First of all, it's text Wi-Fi. Then we have this toggle, which should show the state of the Wi-Fi right now, and pretty much that's all. So here's our Jira board. And we have three actions to do. First of all, we need main action. If somebody will just click on the slice, we need to do something. We have toggle action, and we have a template to get the things together. Let's start from the main action. Main action is just a pending intent, which leads us to the setting screen. If, for example, somebody just click on it, we want to open setting screen because we don't know what the user wants to do with the Wi-Fi. Just click on it. And we have icon here, intent, and Wi-Fi settings string. That's all. The second part is toggle. It's the control which will help us to turn on or off the Wi-Fi, actually. And the template to bring them together. So the toggle looks like this. It's also action, and we are the only difference here is just the call create toggle, not create action, and we are putting the intent, which will be triggered when somebody click on this toggle, and we have text toggle Wi-Fi, and we have current state of our toggle, and we need to get the state from the system. And the last thing is the template. It looks like this. We have one row, we have some accent color for it, and we have title, primary action, and end item. The end item is the thing which will be shown at the end of the row. Yeah, looks like this. Okay, now we will go to some more interesting demo. Let me run it. I don't want to actually get this thing on that screen. So, but looks like I don't have choices. Okay. This guy should go here, probably. Come here. Okay. Okay. Pretty good exercise. I will click here and look there. So what we have here, first of all, we need to have our provider right here. By the way, can you see anything? Okay, so I will read it for you. So provider, Android, column name. Okay, so we adding provider to the manifest, pretty the same stuff as we've done previously in previous example. What we specifying here is our URI and URL if needed. So after it, by the way, let me describe what we are trying to do here, because it's much easier to done some code when you understand what you're doing. Let's imagine that we are doing application for DevFest UA, and we want to have slice which will show random tweet. If, for example, somebody will type on the search field DevFest UA, I want to have a slice behind all search results with just random tweet about DevFest in UA. Probably based it in Lviv. Why not? For it, we need slice and some background work to update the tweets. Let's go to our application. And here we are doing actually pretty simple stuff. We have executor to run our job every 5 seconds. Again, please do not use executors this way in your production code, but for them that's fine. And every 5 seconds, it will trigger our Twitter worker, and the Twitter worker will do the next stuff, some Twitter-related code. Mostly, it will just get the random tweet, get information from it, and notify application that here's new data. And this update data, we have next code. We just saving our data, our random tweet, and notifying content resolver that data was changed. So we are pushing our slice to regenerate UI for it. So what happens in the slice provider? The main method here is still onBind slice. It will trigger slice creation. And here we're just getting our data from the data repository and creating a list with the header, several rows, and one grid row with 2 cells. Let's see how it works. I hope it will work. Okay. Now we need to get emulator to the screen. Huh. Yay. So here we have main activity, and we have nothing in our main activity. So it just shows some hello world. But then we need to run our slice viewer just to check our slice. And you have 2 ways to do it. The first way is to modify your configuration of your project inside the Android Studio, and then we'll have this run button, and we will click on it, and it will execute the slice viewer. But we all are hackers in our souls, so I will use the console here. it will do actually pretty the same stuff. It executes intent with view action. Probably I need to make it a bit wider so you will be able to read it. And then I put as a parameter the content URI of my slice. What will happen there? It will actually execute slice viewer with our slice. And as you can see, here's random tweets with some likes counter, favorite counter text, and the icon, it's the avatar of the user. It changes every 5 seconds, and you can imagine that it will be in the search field, for example, or in the widgets from the left part of your phone, or in any other kind of widgets. So the thing which I didn't mention is how the icon works. So here we need to bring some icon to our layout. And the only stuff which we can do here is just show the bitmap. So in our worker, we are getting this avatar via no-name library. And then in our provider, we just took this picture, where it is, yeah, here, as a title item. So we have icon compared, and we have method, magical method create with bitmap, and then we just put bitmap there, and that's all. So what should I mention here? The first of all slices which are built here, this class slice, which we return, are parsable objects, or kind of. So how Android use this content provider from your slice? When you create this slice, it puts it to the content provider, and then any other application listen to that content provider, get data from it, and then unmarshal it and show it on the screen, render it somehow. So that's why we need this content provider. That's how we are modified, and that's why we can't modify data from this on-byte slice. And we can't just save this slice somewhere and modify data from any other place of our application, like and use it like a dynamic view, because we can't control the rendering. We just put the data away from our application, and some other application will try to render it somehow again. This is the end of the demo. Okay, and I need to click on this button again. Yay! Okay, some short summary. First of all, there is no magic inside. It looks like some additional brand new API of Android, but actually it's content provider, and that's all. And the only stuff which Android do is use this content provider, build some application, for example, search application or any other application which will be on your screen, and then from that application they will contact your content provider, get your slices, and try to render it. What does it mean in long running is that Android team is trying for now to minimize this fragmentation and kind of fragmentation, because if slices will be, for example, part of new API of Android P, then we will see the slices in 5 years from today. But right now they work from Jetpack library, so everywhere where Jetpack will be running, slices will be available. And that's cool. Second stuff, it's you can't control how it will be rendered. And you don't know even who will be rendering your slices, because any application can access them through that content provider, through that category, and try to render it. Slice Viewer is open source application. You can check it. You can check the source. You can build your own application to render slices. And here's where the problem comes, because right now we already have some issues with notifications, for example, and different phone vendors show them in different ways. Some company started from the S and ending with Samsung, sometime broke it. We have some other phones from the China who also trying to render it in a different way, and looks like we will have the same issue with the slices, probably. It's a good candidate for the remote content. So right now we have several ways to throw our data to another applications. We have widgets, we have application actions, we have notifications, and now we have slices. And all of them use the different ways to show the content. All of them use different UI builders, the way how it works, the way how it works dynamically. So right now, if you want to implement all of them, you will need to implement like 4 different ways to show your data. And apparently, again, it's a good candidate to create one DSL for creating UI and one way to distribute it. So for example, it could be nice if, for example, I can show the slices as a widget, because why not? They are good candidates for widget. They have almost the same possibilities as widgets, except some UI views. But why not? We have notifications, and notifications are also pretty the same stuff with pretty the same aims to bring your functionality closer to the user, to make it in one click from them. So why we can't just use slices as notifications? Because you have data, you have URI, and when something came to device, why just can't put this slice provider and show it? You also have this application actions. I don't know even who use it, who actually add application actions to your code, because one of the reasons is because it's yet another functionality, yet another API, and you should think of it, you should provide it. But why we can't just use slices for it? Why we can't show some kind of slices when we are doing long press on your icon? It will be much easier. And if we already implement, for example, on the notification, we already have some part of code which we can reuse for that kind of actions. At least we have the same amount of classes and pretty much the same features. So yeah. And the last part of it, it looks like it's kind of next step of application integration to the Android, because probably you mentioned this is specific feeling that Google trying to get our application and the users not to execute your applications, but communicate with them in any other way. For example, from the search string, from the notifications, from the widgets, from the app actions. So for now, you have a lot of widgets. I have a lot of widgets on my desktop, and I have a lot of applications which I'm not actually running them. I use it as a widget. I have some applications which I use only as notifications. I also not so often run that application. And sometimes I use even application actions. For example, if I need to call to some of my favorite contacts, I just do long click on the phone icon, and then I click call to the person. I'm not running that phone application. And looks like it's the way where Android going. So it could be, apparently, again, it's only my opinion, the kind of operation system which contains several modules, and you install these modules from the Play Store, for example, and you add some additional widgets, you add some additional buttons, but this kind of applications UI, it starts to be not the main place where the user communicates with your application. So probably this is why you should implement the slices in your application. Not because it's a cool feature, not because it could be some additional value for your user, but looks like an Android going to that way. And looks like for now, right now, it's a good moment to start, at least investigate these possibilities. And looks like it could be a good investment in your code base and for your future and for your users to make your application easier to use. And yeah, it's already enough to add it. Make your application easier to use. So that's all from my side, pretty short talk. Thank you for listening to me. Sorry for the technical issues, but thank you.